As the pressure continues to rise in episode 4, James reaches a point where he can no longer ignore the emotional prison his father has built around him, because even though Mortimer thinks he is protecting the family, he is actually destroying his son piece by piece. James starts to realize that being strong does not mean being silent, and that idea goes directly against everything he was taught as a child. The trailer suggests that James will finally begin to see his father not as a hero, but as the source of his pain, and that realization is both freeing and terrifying. When someone grows up under strict control, breaking away feels like betraying everything they were raised to believe. And that inner struggle will push James into one of the most emotional moments of the season. Ruby feels this change in James even when they are apart, because the connection between them is no longer just about love, it is about understanding each other's wounds. Ruby knows that James is not weak, he is wounded, and that makes her even more determined to stand by him. Episode 4 will show Ruby moving beyond doubt and into full belief. Belief that James can heal, belief that their love is real, and belief that they deserve a future together. This emotional shift is powerful because it turns Ruby from someone who is protecting herself into someone who is ready to fight for both of them, even if it costs her the peaceful life she once wanted. Meanwhile, Lydia's story is quietly becoming one of the most heartbreaking parts of this episode, because while everyone else is focused on James and Ruby, she is carrying a secret that could destroy her life. Her body is changing, her fear is growing, and her trust in others is being tested every day. Even though Ruby and Ember try to give her comfort, Lydia cannot escape the reality that once her pregnancy becomes public, people will not see her as a scared young girl, they will see her as a problem. This emotional loneliness makes Lydia extremely vulnerable, and episode 4 will push her closer to a moment where she feels like she has nowhere left to hide. Cyril, at the same time, is moving closer to a decision that he can never take back. His heartbreak has turned into bitterness, and that bitterness is now fueling his desire to hurt the people he believes ruined his future. The trailer hints that Cyril will soon find out the truth about Lydia, and when he does, he will finally have the power he has been craving. This is what makes him so frightening now, because he is no longer acting out of confusion, he is acting out of a cold desire for revenge. And once revenge becomes someone's goal, they stop caring about who gets hurt along the way. All of these emotional paths are slowly crossing, and episode 4 is building toward a moment where everything collides. James is questioning his father, Ruby is ready to fight for love, Lydia is running out of time, and Cyril is preparing to strike. Maxton Hall is no longer just full of drama, it is full of people who are desperate, and when desperation takes over, even the strongest relationships can start to break. As episode 4 moves forward, the emotional distance between James and the world around him becomes even more painful, because being kept away from school and from Ruby does not give him peace. It makes his mind darker and louder. Mortimer believes that isolation will make James obedient again, but instead it is slowly breaking him from the inside, because James is now finally aware of his own feelings and cannot pretend anymore. The trailer shows us a version of James who is no longer fighting just his father, but also his own fear of becoming the weak person Mortimer always warned him about. This inner conflict is what makes James so dangerous to Mortimer now, because a boy who knows his worth is harder to control than a boy who is afraid. Ruby, meanwhile, is not just waiting for things to change, she is actively becoming the force that will challenge everything Mortimer stands for. We see that she is more determined than ever, not in a loud or dramatic way, but in a quiet and powerful way that makes her unstoppable. Ruby knows that if James stays locked away emotionally and physically, he will slowly lose the progress he made in therapy, and she refuses to let that happen. Her love for James is no longer just romantic, it has become protective, and that is why she is ready to risk her own future if it means saving him. Episode 4 will show us Ruby stepping into a role she never wanted, the role of someone who has to fight a powerful family just to keep the person she loves alive emotionally. At the same time, Lydia's story begins to take a painful turn, because the comfort she found in Ruby and Ember cannot fully protect her from the reality she is facing. Her pregnancy is not just a secret anymore, it is a ticking time bomb, and the closer it gets to being exposed, the more alone she feels. Even though she tries to stay strong, there is a fear inside her that no one can erase, the fear that once the truth comes out, she will be treated not as a girl who needs help, but as a mistake that needs to be hidden. That emotional weight makes Lydia more fragile, and sadly, that is exactly when people like Cyril are most likely to hurt her. Cyril's anger is no longer quiet or confused. It is focused, and that makes him even more dangerous. He feels that James took everything from him, his dream, his future, and even his chance to prove himself. And now he wants James to feel the same pain. But instead of attacking James directly, Cyril is choosing a crueler path, one that goes through Lydia. The moment he realizes the truth about her pregnancy, he will understand that this is the perfect weapon, because it can destroy not just her life, but also the reputation of the Beaufort family. Episode 4 is slowly building toward the moment when Cyril decides that revenge is more important than love, and that decision will change everything. And while all of this is happening, Maxton Hall itself begins to feel like a place where no one is truly safe anymore. The school that once represented dreams, success, and future now feels like a cage where secrets can ruin lives in seconds. The tension between students, families, and hidden truths is growing with every scene, and Episode 4 will push these characters into situations where they can no longer pretend that everything will be okay. This is the moment when Maxton Hall stops being just a school and becomes a battlefield where love, power, and fear are all fighting for control. The Maxton Hall. Season 2 Episode 4 trailer does not just tease drama, it warns us that everything we believed about James, Ruby, and the Beaufort family is about to be shaken to its core. Because this episode is not about love anymore, it is about survival, control, and how far people will go when they are afraid of losing power and the ones they love. Section 1. Maxton Hall. Season 2 Episode 4 opens in a world that feels colder, heavier, and more dangerous than anything we have seen before, because after the emotional chaos of the last episodes, the story is no longer slowly building, it is exploding. James is no longer the confident boy we once knew, and even though therapy has helped him find his emotions, it has also made him more vulnerable than ever. The trailer makes it clear that Mortimer is not proud of James for opening up. Instead, he is furious. Because for a man like Mortimer, weakness is the greatest enemy. When James spoke about his struggles at the event, he did not just embarrass his father, he challenged the entire image Mortimer built for the Beaufort family, and that is something Mortimer will never forgive. In Episode 4, we can already feel that Mortimer is tightening his grip, and James is slowly being pulled away from everything that gives him strength, including Ruby. Ruby, on the other hand, is standing in a completely different place emotionally. She knows James is broken, but she also sees that he is trying, and that makes all the difference. Unlike before, James is no longer hiding behind arrogance. And that honesty is exactly what makes Ruby feel closer to him, even when they are physically apart. The trailer hints that Ruby is not going to sit quietly while Mortimer locks James away, because she understands something that Mortimer never will, that love is not about control. It is about allowing someone to be their true self. And that makes Ruby the most dangerous person in Mortimer's eyes, because she is the one person who can give James the courage to fight back. At the same time, the Beaufort family is starting to crack from the inside. Lydia's pregnancy is no longer something that can stay hidden, and every day it becomes more obvious that the perfect image Mortimer wants to protect is already falling apart. Lydia is emotionally fragile, but she is also growing stronger with Ruby by her side, and that scares the people who want to use her as a replacement for James. The idea that Mortimer might try to push Lydia into the spotlight while hiding James feels cruel, because Lydia is carrying not only twins, but also the weight of her family's expectations and secrets. Episode 4 is going to force her to face a world that is not kind to girls who do not fit into society's rules, and that pain is going to change her forever. And then there is Cyril, who is quietly becoming one of the most dangerous characters in this story. His Oxford dream was destroyed the moment James chose Ruby over the match, and that kind of disappointment does not just fade away, it turns into anger. Cyril feels betrayed, humiliated, and powerless, and when people feel that way, they look for someone to blame. The trailer strongly suggests that Lydia might become his target, because once he finds out about her pregnancy, he will realize that he has something that can destroy the Beaufort family from the inside. Reporting her to the school would not just hurt Lydia, it would also hurt James and Ruby, and Cyril knows that causing pain is the only way he can feel strong again. So when we look at everything coming together in episode 4, it feels like Maxton Hall is standing at the edge of a dark storm. James is being controlled, Ruby is preparing to fight, Lydia is becoming more vulnerable, and Cyril is ready to strike. This episode is not just about what happens next. It is about who will survive emotionally when all the secrets, lies, and fears finally come out into the open.